You know, I'm in the superpower quest. My core drive is harmony, so I care a lot about people and what people think. And this has some amazing benefits. It makes me empathetic, compassionate, caring about other people. But it also has some drawbacks because there's an outsized impact or effect that other people's thoughts can have upon me if I'm not careful. If I'm not careful, I can become or start to fit myself to other people's perceptions. That's part of the it's the weakness that's part of the strength. And I think a lot of people that are connectors or nurturers can probably identify with that. And so when I was a kid, I was still this way. I still had I had these default factory settings when I was a kid. And in the neighborhood I grew up in, I was bullied. I faced a decent amount of bullying in my neighborhood. And because of the kind of person, because of my design that I have, that bullying had an outsized effect on me, on my self image and creating fear. And so I have been, here at the age of 49, I've been on a lifelong journey to deal with fear because from those early years, when you deal with that kind of trauma in your early years, that fear can kind of settle down into your bones, right? It can set in and become a part of the fabric, and you don't even know it's there. And so it's taken a decent amount of work and reflection and prayer and intentionality to learn to name that about myself, to name some of the effects of growing up that way, and then to even learn to manage and steward and overcome that. And so that's what this post is about. It's about wrestling with the dragon of fear and what I've learned in my journey uh, around fear, because I do think I'm a person who carries or has carried, I would say, more fear than the average. I think that's true. I'm not in other people's souls to know that for sure, but it certainly has been a massive factor for me in my life and something that had to come up against many times. But also, it's an area where I've experienced a great deal of growth. And most recently, about probably 8 months ago, I read a book called Living Fearless by Jamie Winship that really kind of dealt the death blow to that kind of deeply institutionalized or um, deeply internalized fear that I carried, because I believed for a long time that I was a coward because of a trauma that happened to me when I was a kid. I truly believed deep, deep, deep in my soul that I was a coward and that was the secret that I couldn't allow anybody to know. And the book Living Fearless actually helped me name that, help me see the thing that I couldn't see. Sometimes we have stuff that's inside of us that's so deep and so entrenched, it's like the water we swim in or like the air we breathe, and you can't really see it, you can't really name it, because it's the bedrock, right? um, but amazingly enough, that book helped me identify it, point at it, name it, and face it, and then begin to deal with it. I've spent time with my 13, 14-year-old self in some ways, with my arm around him and holding him and telling him, like, yeah, the world's not like you thought. It can be a scary place. It can be a scary place, that's for sure. It can be a brutal place. It can be a cruel place. Um, but it doesn't have to define who who we are on the inside. And I think that's what I'm trying to communicate with this post about the dragon of fear, and that really the only way past fear is through it, right? You've got to turn and look at the thing that you're afraid of. You've got to take the measure of it, not, because fear tends to puff itself up. Fear tends to, the feeling of fear, the perception of fear, tends to seem larger than the actual problem. And therefore, it keeps you, right, from turning to face and take the accurate measure of the problem because, fear makes you want to run away, or makes you want to compress and become small. It makes you want to shut down. And so what I've learned and what I try to practice, I wouldn't say I'm 100% on this, but I would say more than ever, um, I try to turn and face, because the only way through that fear, or the only way past that fear, is through it. It's not around it. It's not running. It's not the opposite direction. That's for sure. It's actually going and dealing with the situation. And there's a different tool set that I have access to, a hope tool set, if I'm willing to turn and do that. And I think many of us have experienced that in our lives, where there was something that we were super scared of, and we were running away from it, and finally, for some reason, we stopped and we turned to face it, and then we found ourselves with the creativity to begin to solve the problem, to address it. Maybe it's not comfortable, it's not fun, but we find that there is something that we can do about it, right? And at some point, we invariably ask ourselves, man, what was I so scared of? Well, that's part of the function in the form of fear. It's not real. It's an experience and a perception in response to an external event or circumstance. But we've got to get through to what the event or circumstance is in itself and past the fear in order to get an accurate understanding. So I hope you enjoy this today's post, and love hanging out with you through the newsletter whenever I can. Have a good day.